Trelawny explains who, what, when, where, why, and how. Lead Story with George Davis, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on CVM TV.
It's Wednesday, October 30, 2024. Welcome to CVM News at noon. I'm Ramon Gordon. Early Wednesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced a historic cabinet reshuffle, appointing Favour Williams as Jamaica's first female finance minister. The reshuffle follows the departure of Dr. Nigel Clark, who leaves for the International Monetary Fund very soon. At a media briefing today, Prime Minister Holness praised Williams, a financial expert and former business professional, as someone who embodies the fiscal discipline central to his administration's policies.
The idea, of course, is to ensure that whoever is in the Ministry of Finance is a disciple of the government's policy of fiscal discipline. That is what is really important. I could never put anyone there who is going to in any way depart from the hard-earned gains and sacrifice of the Jamaican people to get us to where we are today. And I'm confident that Minister Williams is a disciple.
Williams previously held roles in the financial sector and brings extensive experience to the post. Holness believes her background and dedication align well with the government's fiscal objectives.
So the decision would also be on the basis of what would be the least disruptive to the operations of the government. And if I were to start to move the ministers around too often, projects that they have started, that they need to see through, things that are important to achieve, that could be disrupted and it could set the government behind.
The new cabinet configuration also includes Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon as Minister of Education, Youth and Information, while Matthew Semuda resumes his role as Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Holness described these appointments as strategic moves to foster human capital development and economic stability as his administration prepares to, quote, pivot.
It's a pivot towards an aggressive pursuit of growth. And believe me when I say we're going to be vicious in that regard.
And for a reaction to the announcements, we are joined by Opposition Spokesperson for Finance, Julian Robinson. Sir Robinson, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Immediately, what are your reactions to the news?
I think based on the pool of available MPs on the government side, I think Favour Williams is the only logical choice to be the Minister of Finance. She has had previous experience in that ministry, and she would have an understanding of the issues that a Minister of Finance would have to deal with because she served as a minister without portfolio. So it's not a surprise that she has been chosen, and I believe of the available pool there, she would be best able to hit the ground running.
On the matter of hitting the ground running, Sir Robinson, what should her immediate priority items be, you'd say?
There are a number of issues. If I take the public services side, there's a lot of restiveness on the part of the Jamaica Civil Service Association. In fact, they have said that since the agreement signed with the government a couple of weeks ago, there has been no implementation. We're seeing groups of workers, PICA, the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, those groups are restive in terms of outstanding issues. So I believe there needs to be some of the issues that exist there need to be resolved. But more broadly, I believe that the government has to pivot to focusing on growth. I think the government and the previous one, the PMP, did a good job of bringing our debt to GDP down to a manageable level. And we are on a good trajectory. The problem is we have not had the level of growth that we need as a country. And so we need to tackle the impediments to growth, put in place investments in the infrastructure, deal with the issues of education, particularly early childhood education, so that we can raise the levels of productivity, skills, so that we can provide the kind of jobs that Jamaicans will want to do here in Jamaica. That overall has to be the main mandate of the new minister.
Sir Robinson, are there any concerns within your appointment? And I ask you this because Dr. Nigel Clark enjoyed a lot of public confidence in his duties. Do you think that Mrs. Williams will be extended that same favor?
I think it depends on how she starts. There have been challenges in the education sector in terms of her own stewardship there. So it is early to say whether she will get the same level of confidence, but I think she has to build that and demonstrate her competence. And I think, the market will respond to that based on how she operates in the first couple of days and weeks of her tenure.
Sir Robinson, this announcement comes ahead of the general election constitutionally due next year. Do you think that it's likely Mrs. Williams or Minister Williams will retain this portfolio should the JLP win another term?
I don't know. I certainly don't have the JLP winning another term within my contemplation. I mean, we are working hard as a party to end this, the tenure of the JLP. We have been doing the work on the grounds. The polls point in a positive direction. And, we're anticipating taking the reins of government when the people have a chance to indicate who they want to lead them.
Sir Robinson, while I have you, I have to ask, Miss Marissa Dalrymple's Filbert, she's been announced as the candidate for Trelawny South. When you heard that news this morning, what was your reaction to it? She had resigned previously.
Yeah, I mean, no reason was given for her resignation as MP. We understand why she resigned as Speaker, but there was no reason given for the resignation as MP. We know that there's still an outstanding matter related to the Integrity Commission. I know it went to court, and I believe a new date has been set. So that matter still remains outstanding. So, to be frank, I'm not clear what the circumstances would be that are different now than when she resigned. And why is she coming back now, having resigned almost a year ago? But I know I saw agitation on the part of Labour Party supporters in the constituency asking for her, but I believe those are legitimate questions which she should answer.
Sir Robinson, we're going to be talking about this more going forward, I'm sure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Still on that matter, the wait is over for residents in Trelawny Southern who on November 22 will have the chance to elect a new local representative. And in a long-anticipated move, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced that former Member of Parliament Marissa Dalrymple Filibert will be the Jamaica Labour Party's candidate.
It's difficult to speak for Marissa as to why she resigned and then she's coming back, and I'm certain she will give an explanation. But my own view is that she really respected the perspectives of the public with whatever was accusations were laid in the public domain, and she thought it was the honorable thing to do. But I think that as she went through the constituency and people kept demanding that she return, and she does have quite a popular support in the constituency. So, it's really the will of the people, and we will see the will of the people exercised in the by-election.
Dalrymple, who resigned in September 2023 amid pressure surrounding 8 charges from the Integrity Commission, has received an outpouring of support from JLP members in the area. Scores of supporters recently gathered in Albert Town Square calling for her return, and it seems their voices have been heard. This by-election will coincide with another in St. Andrew Northwestern, with nomination day for both constituencies set for November 6. Additionally, municipal elections are set to take place in St. Thomas and and Clarendon divisions due to recent vacancies. These local elections will also follow the same schedule, with nomination day on November 6 and election day on November 22, 2024. Stay with us. More CVM News at noon after this.
You've weathered the storm, but rebuilding and preparing for back to school have taken a toll. It's time to get some money in your pocket. At Chris and Charles, we understand your financial needs. With just a quick call, you can access funds to catch up on bills and cover unexpected expenses. Our process is fast, simple, with funds deposited in your account in no time. Don't stress, get money in your pocket. Call 876-926-0609 or visit our website today. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Recycling partners of Jamaica. Yeah, we got to make a change, and we have to do it now, can't wait for later. We put plastic in its place, and we all can agree that will be safer than in the gullies and in the drains. Recycling partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place, yeah, the place have to clean. PET, that up polyethylene, HDPE, buckle up and get screen. Baby to granny, everybody roping. Yeah, we got to go green, you know what I mean. See the sign from the bin, if you drop it in, through car window you flick, that another thing. And we don't want no garbage in this game. No, we handle it up, but them are not the same. So listen up, Jamaica, I'm saying it's time to make a change. Recycling partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place, and we all can agree that we'll be safer than in the gullies in the every range. Recycling partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place.
Our days get a little complex sometimes. Often so many things make sense, yet so many do not. We are being intentional about giving prominence to the big stories in order to clarify and enlighten. Lead Story explains who, what, when, where, why, and how. Lead Story with George Davis, weekdays at 6:30 p.m. on CVM TV.
Welcome back. It's time for our discussion segment. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, as we said earlier, announced at a post-cabinet press briefing this morning that there will be some changes within the government. This after former Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark departed the island to fill a post at the International Monetary Fund. The role of Finance Minister has been bestowed on outgoing Education Minister Favour Williams. Her former ministry will now be led by Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon. Joining me now to discuss this reshuffle are political commentators Sandre Roden and Damian Gordon. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me as well.
Sure. We just heard the reaction from the opposition spokesperson on finance. The consensus, at least within PMP ranks, is that Favour Williams is the best pick for the job. Not only that, it's a historic appointment. She's going to be the first ever female finance minister. What is the historic, let's begin there, and political significance of these developments? We'll start with you, Sir Gordon.
Yes, so I am in agreement with the opposition that of the available options to take over from Dr. Nigel Clark, Favour Williams is the best suited. She's a natural fit. She has educational background in economics and finance. She has also a professional background in education, in economics and finance. She formerly served as Minister with a portfolio in the Ministry of Finance. So she has had built those relationships with the stakeholders. She's familiar with the internal processes. She's familiar with the routine and the requirements of operating that ministry. Now, within the context of this thrust toward gender equality, and given the fact that we have recognized that women have now been, excelling academically, educationally, the fact that we're promoting women to these important positions of leadership and decision making, it's a credit to the advance and our successes that we have made in terms of the progress we have made in terms of promoting gender equality and empowerment. And it's not just a woman, it's just a tokenism. We're talking about a woman who is obviously qualified for this position. So from that perspective, I think it is a good decision. And at this point in time, I think that she is the best fit to take over from Dr. Clark.
Very well.
Yes.
Sir Roden, I asked the opposition member some questions, and since I have you here, I'm very curious to hear your perspective. Now, Dr. Nigel Clark seemed to have enjoyed a lot of political capital, goodwill, and public confidence to execute his policies. Should the Holness administration be worried that Minister Williams may not enjoy that?
That is certainly a concern, because you have to consider, for example, public opinion. And she formerly served as a Minister of Education, and the public there's divided public opinion about her stewardship of that ministry. So already there is a sense of concern among many Jamaicans. I'm not sure she necessarily enjoys a high level of enthusiasm. Some Jamaicans are concerned based on the fact that there's divided perception about how she managed the portfolio, the Ministry of Education portfolio. But it could be a case where she may not have been a good fit for that ministry based on her experience and her expertise. She may be a better fit for this ministry based on her experience and expertise. So there are two perspectives. One, it is a perspective of persons who will say, well, she's competent, she has been trained, she has worked in this field, and she's a natural fit for this field. And there is a public perception, which is, well, we saw you in operation as a Minister of Education, and many people were not impressed by how you steward that ministry. So that creates that element of anxiety, that creates that element of concern, which is understandable based on the importance of the Ministry of Finance. The Jamaican economy currently is somewhere between stability and potential recession. We're talking about a ministry that has implications for governance, for public service delivery, for development. It determines allocation of resources to ministries. It determines our macroeconomic policy, our relationships with our external partners. It determines, for example, it has implications for every fundamental aspect of our development.
Certainly, Mr. Gordon.
The consideration of the demonstrable capacity that Jamaicans are using to say, well, we are a little bit iffy. But again, I think of the available options, she's best suited.
Sir Roden, I'm very curious to hear from you now. How likely do you think it is for Minister Williams to retain that portfolio if the JLP were to win another term?
Well, if the Jamaica... you're talking to...
Sir Roden.
Mr.
Roden. When we consider how it has been in the past, I can't say for sure that that is something that we can actually start talking about now, because it's still in the prerogative of the Prime Minister. And even though I would say good pick from the Prime Minister off the bat for many reasons, I think Mr. Gordon went through all the reasons why. Another thing is that she holds CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, one of the sought after designations by financial professionals. So she is more than qualified.
What was your reaction to the news, Sir Roden, of her appointment?
It was expected, but when we go looking at what's possibly going to happen in the future, it comes down to us looking at what possibly will be the slate for the Jamaica Labour Party to see what options the Prime Minister will have moving forward. We don't know that yet. We know, I think, 61 from the opposition, but we don't know full 63 from either side yet. But my reaction is that it's kind of the expected pick, because we did see that, of course, it had to come from the lower house. There are speculations about the Prime Minister taking it on, and there were speculations about it being somebody else. I'd have said that she's one of the picks. There's another state minister there now in Minister Xavier Main, but she has had the experience of being Minister of State, Minister without portfolio, and I'm minded to think that they would still have had her on those financial committees based on her expertise. So who else to take it on? Meaning she would have already been in the trenches as it relates to the finances of the country. So it would be a natural fit, an easy move, and then eventually, I think over time, as Mr. Gordon would have said, we'll see how she morphs into this role, as it may be the best role for her expertise. So even if people had questions of her educational portfolio, we may see a more likely fit for this ministry.
Let's talk about the other changes that the Prime Minister announced today. And we're going to go back to you, Mr. Gordon. Senator Dana Morris-Dixon is now Education Minister, or she's going to be assuming that role. Do you believe she's well placed?
All right, so before I get into that, I am curious as to why a by-election was held in Northeast St. Ann, because my assumption was that by-election was held to facilitate the promotion of the Mattis Amuda to a higher position in government. That has not happened, so that is my first curiosity. Why is it that the by-election was held, and why was that by-election prioritized? Because I assume that by-election was linked to the potential